Newton and mechanical causality, the scientific revolution of the 17th century, provided a powerful answer to the problem of causality. With his laws of motion, Isaac Newton described a universe like a giant clockwork machine, where every event follows deterministic laws. His third law: for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, can be seen as the most perfect physical declaration of the law of causality. Throw a ball against a wall, cause, and the wall will exert an equal and opposite force back on the ball, effect. Everything is clear, measurable, and predictable. This worldview solidified a strong belief in a linear causal order: A causes B, B causes C. It became the foundation for the development of technology and engineering. However, its very absolutism also raised a question: if everything is determined by a chain of physical causality, do humans still have free will? The fourth interrogation: what is the basis for universal morality? Kant and the command from within. Facing the challenge of a clockwork universe, the German philosopher Immanuel Kant performed a Copernican revolution in philosophy. He argued that the foundation of morality lies not in the external world or in God's commands, but within the very structure of human reason. He introduced the categorical imperative, a tool to test the morality of any action. One of its most famous formulations is, act only according to that maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Let's prosecute the act of breaking a promise, cause I intend to break a promise for personal gain. Universalizability test. Imagine a world where everyone can break a promise at any time. Effect. In such a world, the concept of a promise would cease to exist, because no one would believe in it. Your act of breaking a promise becomes meaningless and self-contradictory. Thus, an act is wrong, a bad cause, not because it leads to bad consequences for someone, but because it is inherently irrational when universalized. Kant constructed a law of moral causality based on the consistency of logic. Sow a rational act, and you reinforce an orderly world. Sow an irrational act, and the point of convergence. Schopenhauer, the philosophical bridge between East and West. The philosophical interrogation reaches its climax with Arthur Schopenhauer, the thinker who voraciously read translations of the Upanishads and Buddhist texts. He was like a man standing between two oceans, listening to the waves of both and realizing they shared the same rhythm. Schopenhauer argued that the essence of the world is a blind, insatiable will to live. This is the cause of all existence, because the will can never be fully satisfied. The inevitable effect of life is suffering, the path to liberation. It is the renunciation of the will through compassion and a life of ascetic morality. Schopenhauer used the language and logic of German philosophy to arrive at a conclusion nearly identical to the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism. He demonstrated that whether through the path of Eastern introspection or the path of Western rational analysis, great minds could arrive at the same truth. It is clinging and craving that are the cause of suffering, and it is renunciation and compassion that are the path to peace. Part 2. Under the microscope of modern science. In the 21st century, we demand more. We want evidence. It is now time for the scientific witnesses to take the stand. They will show us that the law of cause and effect is not just a concept, but a mechanism at work in every cell and every thought we have. Witness number 1, quantum physics. This universe is interconnected. Newton's clockwork worldview was shaken to its core by quantum physics. At the subatomic level, reality becomes bizarre and reveals a deeper kind of causality, quantum entanglement. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. Two particles can be mysteriously linked, even if they are millions of light-years apart. When you measure a property of one particle, cause, the property of the other changes instantaneously, effect. This shatters the notion that causality requires contact and time for transmission. It points to a fundamental truth: the universe has an intrinsic, non-local, non-temporal connection. Is this not a scientific version of Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh's concept of interbeing? That all things inter are, that nothing exists independently, the observer effect. In the quantum world, a particle like an electron can exist in multiple states at once, as both a wave and a particle. But the moment we decide to observe it, cause, it collapses into a single state, effect. The act of observation, an act of consciousness, has a direct impact on physical reality. This suggests that consciousness is not a passive bystander, but an active participant in the creation of reality. I have taken care to preserve the philosophical depth, the courtroom drama narrative, and the specific scientific terminology. Interrogation of reason, causality before the court of philosophy and science. Estimated reading time. We immersed ourselves in the stream of Eastern wisdom. We heard of karma, of Engip, of a universe where every action, no matter how small, creates a ripple that spreads across lifetimes. It is a beautiful, deeply humane worldview that offers profound comfort, but today, we leave that comfort zone. We will take the law of causality out of the realm of belief and place it in a court of reason. Here, the prosecutors are the greatest minds of Western philosophy, who demand logic, definition, and rigor. The witnesses are the scientists of the modern age, who trust only in data, in experiments, and in evidence that can be weighed, measured, and counted. The central question of this trial is, can the law of causality withstand the interrogation of reason? Is the concept, "you reap what you sow," merely a moral metaphor, or does it contain a profound truth about the fabric of reality that both philosophy and science, on their own separate paths, are also beginning to discover? This is not a confrontation, but a marvelous dialogue. An unexpected meeting between streams of thought that seemed destined never to meet, only to find a stunningly common truth. Part I. In the dock of Western philosophy, visuals transition to architectural drawings of Greece, marble statues of Aristotle and Plato, and the academic atmosphere of the Enlightenment. Narrator: the hallmark of Western thought is the relentless asking of the question, why? This uncompromising inquiry has created a grand philosophical tradition focused on the search for cause and effect, causality. Let's see how they interrogated. The first interrogation: what is the nature of a cause? Aristotle and the decoding of reality. The great thinker Aristotle of ancient Greece was the first to systematically and rigorously conceptualize causality. He argued that to truly understand a thing, we must know all four of its causes. Imagine a wooden table, the material cause. What is it made of? It is made of wood, the formal cause. What is its form or design? It has the shape of a table according to a blueprint, the efficient cause. Who or what created it? The carpenter created it, the final cause. Tell us, what is its purpose? Its purpose is to have objects placed upon it, while the efficient cause, the carpenter, corresponds directly to the cause. In the common cause and effect pair, it is the final cause. Tell us, where Aristotle's philosophy profoundly meets with moral causality. He believed that everything in the universe, including humans, has an ultimate purpose. The purpose of a human being is to achieve eudaimonia, a state of flourishing, of a life well-lived. So, what cause leads to the effect of eudaimonia? Aristotle answers, it is the act of living a life of virtue. Practicing courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom, the good causes, is the only path that leads to a flourishing life, the good effect. Thus, Aristotle built a completely secular law of cause and effect. So the cause of virtue, and you will reap the effect of a flourishing life. This is an answer that requires neither gods nor an afterlife, but lies within the very nature. And the second interrogation, where does real power lie? Stoicism and internal causality. A few centuries later, Stoic philosophers like Seneca and Emperor Marcus Aurelius pushed the question of causality deep into the human mind. They observed that the universe operates according to a rational order they called the logos. Humans, as part of the universe, will be happy when they live in harmony with the logos. They introduced a revolutionary distinction of causality, things we can control, internal causes our thoughts, judgments, and actions, things we cannot control, external circumstances, the weather, the words of others, success and failure, the source of all suffering, the effect, lies not in external circumstances, but in our erroneous judgment about those circumstances, the cause. Rain is not bad, it is simply rain. Your frustration because your picnic was cancelled is the true cause of your misery. Thus, the Stoics pointed out an immediate and powerful law of cause and effect, so a correct judgment, and you will reap tranquility. Sow a flawed judgment, and you will reap turmoil. This is an astonishing parallel to the Buddhist concept of intention, satana, where thought is seen as the root of all karma. They taught that while we cannot choose our circumstances, we always have the complete power to choose our response, and that is precisely where our power to shape our destiny resides. For a long time, we thought DNA was destiny, a fixed blueprint. But the field of epigenetics has revealed an astonishing truth. Our environment and our behaviors can change the way our genes are expressed. AP means above. Epigenetics are the chemical mechanisms that sit above the genome, acting like switches that turn certain genes on or off. What are the causes here? Your diet, your stress levels, whether you exercise or not, even your thoughts and emotions, all these causes can create chemical changes, such as attaching methyl groups to a gene, causing that gene to be silenced. A person may have a genetic predisposition to heart disease, fixed DNA, but if they live a healthy lifestyle, good cause, they can turn off those disease-causing genes and live a healthy life, good effect. Even more astonishingly, some of these epigenetic changes can be inherited by the next generation. The actions of grandparents can affect the health of their grandchildren. Is this not a specific biological mechanism for what the ancients called ancestral merit, or the blessings of the ancestors? You are sculpting your own brain. The brain is not a static mass of tissue. It is a living, dynamic structure with an extraordinary capacity for change. The core concept here is neuroplasticity. The mantra of neuroplasticity is, neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time you have a thought or perform an action, cause, a specific neural pathway in your brain is activated. If you repeat that thought or action, that neural pathway is reinforced, becoming thicker and more efficient, much like a footpath in a forest becomes a highway with repeated use. This is the effect at a biological level. This is the biological mechanism of habit and personality. If you continuously sow the cause of complaining and worrying, you are sculpting a brain that easily defaults to a negative state, effect. Conversely, if you practice gratitude and meditation, cause, you are building neural superhighways that lead to peace and happiness, effect. You are the sculptor of your own brain. Furthermore, the placebo effect is a powerful testament to the power of the will. A patient who believes they are taking a real medicine, cause, can experience real, measurable biochemical changes and symptom relief in their body, effect. Belief, a state of consciousness, has created a physical result. Happiness and suffering are contagious. Finally, let's consider causality in the web of social relationships, emotional contagion. Studies show that emotions are like viruses. When you enter a room in a happy mood, cause, you can actually change the physiological state of those around you, making them feel happier too, effect. Irritability and anger spread in the same way. We are not islands. Our emotions are the cause for the emotions of others, the power of altruism. Numerous studies have proven that spending money on others or dedicating time to helping others, cause, brings a much more lasting sense of happiness and satisfaction than doing so for oneself, effect. When we give, the brain releases hormones like oxytocin and dopamine, creating the so-called helper's high. To give is to receive is no longer a moral cliché, but a psychophysiological fact. Conclusion. The final verdict and empowerment. Music becomes powerful, epic, and inspiring. Visuals montage the entire journey, from Aristotle, Newton, Kant to images of DNA, the brain, and finally returning to an image of an ordinary person, smiling and living a meaningful life. So, what is the final verdict for the law of cause and effect? The law of causality has not been refuted. On the contrary, it has been affirmed, illuminated, and proven in different languages, Western philosophy has shown that causality is the foundation of reason, of morality, and of a life well lived. Modern science has outlined the specific mechanisms through which causality operates, from quantum entanglement, gene expression, and brain structure, to the contagion of emotions. That we realize that you reap what you sow is not a supernatural punishment or reward. It is simply the operating principle of reality. Sow a thought of anger, and you are sculpting a brain prone to anger. That is the effect. Live under stress, and you are flipping on the switches for disease-causing genes. That is the effect. Treat others with kindness, and you are activating happiness hormones within yourself. That is the effect. The unexpected encounter between East and West, between faith and reason, between ancient wisdom and modern science, did not lead to conflict. It led to the most liberating and empowering truth of all: we are the cause. Our lives are the effect. That we are not passive puppets of fate. We are the farmers, the sculptors, the architects who are constantly planting, sculpting, and building our own lives through every single choice, every single action, every single thought. So, now that we understand the mechanics of this law, what will we do with this power? How do we become a wise farmer, a talented sculptor? We invite you to join us for Chapter 3, The Art of Living in Harmony with Nature, turning the theory of causality into daily practice.